let's talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves,
Okay.
where their moves are not headlining moves that they made this offseason, but they add Shake Milton to deepen the bench rotation. They keep Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They um they got rid of Taurean Prince, which I think absolutely matters. Uh, they extended Anthony Edwards, I think, and they paid Naz Reid. They bring in Troy Brown, which he doesn't even begin to replace Taurean Prince, quite frankly. But Nah played a bunch of three last year, and I think their biggest addition is going to be time and reps. Whereas a part of it is, look, they don't have, when you look at their top four players, they didn't have a lot of time together because of the cat injury. Now you factor Mike Conley into this, and then also the ill-timed injury of like a Jaden McDaniels, and they've played a whopping 7 games. They're projected starting 5 and closing 5 together through the playoffs and regular season. And so I look at the Timberwolves. The moves they make, again, on paper are marginal. I like Shake Milton. I thought Nah played really well for them, especially in some of those wing minutes. I think they will miss Taurean Prince. I just feel like they've been written off because of how the narrative took hold of their team early last season, what it is surrounding Cat, of course, and then they didn't really help themselves in the playoffs. They put up a real fight against Denver, but just like with the Rudy Gobert, Kyle Anderson stuff, that took on a life of its own. Jaden McDaniels injuring himself. But you look at that team, and we can focus on a lot of what they didn't do. But like, I was wrong about the D'Angelo Russell trade. I think Mike Conley ended up being great connective tissue for them, and I missed on that. I think I destroyed them not only on this podcast, but also in the BR response that I did to it. And then Anthony Edwards is just that guy. Like, he is tracking towards all NBA bids. And I think if you were to build, like, you have to take this player for the next 5 years to build your team around, there are maybe 3 to 4 to 5 guys at most you take over him right now, maybe a little bit more. So he's in that conversation. And he just, I know what he can do as a disruptor on defense, but his just as a shot maker, he shot like 38% on step back threes. And as a passer, he's come such a long way on offense. Jaden McDaniels improved on offense last year, as did Naz Reid. The data when he plays alongside another big is not good. It's also not enough data to say, oh, it can't work. So his floor game was budding. Ditto for what Jaden McDaniels was able to do, in addition to propping up strong, 3-point clip on his volume. And I just look at this team and I'm like, we need to talk about the Timberwolves, because I don't think that, do you believe in the 3 big setup moving forward? At the price point, I think it's fair to say no, but I also don't think that you can say that we've seen enough to know it definitively does not work. And given the trajectories of Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels and even sort of Naz Reid, and then just making the nice little, okay, we thought Nah was sort of this throw-in at the trade deadline. Like, no, this worked. And the impact that Mike Conley has on the locker room and the offense, and just having a capable backup point guard in Shake Milton who, does more for you than Jalen Noel, there's like a chance. And this is with the caveat that I was very high on the Timberwolves leading into last season.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm somehow even higher on them now than I was last summer after what we watched. And I'm just curious as to where you land on these Timberwolves.
I was bullish on them as well last summer. I thought they'd be at least a very good regular season team. I had some questions about their playoff upside, but just figured Gobert would be such a floor raiser. And as you said, Cat only plays 29 games, so you almost just have to throw out last season. I think the 2 big questions for the Timberwolves: one, they have to extend Jaden McDaniels, right? Like, how much do they do it for? But you just
under $25 million per year in his next contract.
Oh, I mean, that's probably like right in that range. I'm guessing slightly under, if they can get him to agree, but they might not be able to. If they try to, if you go much lower than that, he's probably going to say no. Again, I think it comes down to him and his agent looking at the landscape next summer. But heck, like, if the Sixers are having $60 million to throw around and they strike out on all their free agents, they strike out on the top tier guys, Jaden McDaniels is going to look pretty attractive to them. So, I think he will have suitors, and he's young enough that, young teams that have a lot of cap space, like if the Spurs are projected to have a ton of cap space next summer, like they should be taking swings on restricted free agents. So
also, who has shown more ball skills to date, Jaden McDaniels or OG Anunoby? Let's start a discussion.
No, I think it's just the right answer to that question.
If anyone is watching, my power is literally flickering over this monster thunderstorm that is happening around me. So hopefully you can't hear it. I think the Wolves are going to be good is my point. I don't know if I would take them for a top sport spot in the West, but I think it's very foolish to write them off. And maybe they go belly up to start the year and we're talking about some massive overhaul situations, mostly involving Cat. But I think they have a strong chance to just be exceptional, to where if you told me they finished like third or fourth in the West, I mean, aside from Denver and Phoenix, I don't think the West is founded around any sort of certainties. And I think even people would argue that Phoenix isn't considered a certainty. And so you have to, I think you can put the Timberwolves, there's the burden of proof. So like, do you want to loop them in with the Warriors and the Lakers and the Clippers if they're healthy? But you kind of have to, I feel like. And I think I'm that much of a believer in one Cat, who, by the way, is just like a transcendent offensive player who has his defensive flaws. And I don't think you necessarily should have paired him with Rudy Gobert. He is offensive transcendence. He is a singularity at his position offensively. And then that being that high on Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, being that wrong on my part about the Mike Conley addition, this Wolves team is ready to make some noise. And if they don't, I'll eat crow. And I think the front office is going to eat crow, and there's going to be some heads that will roll before the trade deadline. If we're 20 games into the season or 25, whatever, and they're just sort of like floating around a whole bunch of nothing, maybe they're even playing really poorly, there are going to be some wholesale changes that are made. Honestly, my prediction would be, I don't think they need them because I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, I think the big concern for them is a lot of teams in the West on paper got better this offseason. Phoenix, obviously, the Lakers made very good moves that should make them better. And they are already, after the trade deadline, a much better team than they were prior to the trade deadline. Health, if the Pelicans can stay healthy, if Zion stays healthy in particular, like Timberwolves and Pelicans had the same record last year. And that's with Zion playing as sparingly as he did. Dallas also had a very good offseason. So, did they?
OKC is just on the rise.
Yeah, you got Chet coming back. And even Houston. I mean, I don't know if Houston's going to jump up into the 45 win range right away, but they're going to be better. Really, the Trailblazers and the Spurs are probably the only two teams in the West that don't have at least a realistic play-in aspirations this year, which means three teams are going to miss out that think they shouldn't, or at least have realistic hope that they shouldn't. Utah probably falls out of that mix at some point just to protect their own draft pick. I think that's the concern from the Timberwolves perspective is did the rest of the West get better around them? And, injuries will inevitably happen, and one or two teams that we think is going to be good will fall down the standings. But, it's tentatively tough for me to see the Timberwolves in the top 4 or 5, maybe top 6, but I feel like they're probably still a play-in team this year.
I'm going to predict they finish in the top 6. I'm not going to go through the order. I think the only teams I'm prepared to say that are definitively better, or that I would say will be better, are the Warriors, the Suns, the Nuggets, and I might throw the Pelicans. I'm a big believer in the Pelicans. So I'm going to say they finish in the top 6. I don't even know who would the 15 that I would pick. It wouldn't be Dallas. I guess the Lakers deserve to be there. There's just age 39 LeBron, Anthony Davis's health. I honestly just don't know. I guess the Lakers would be my pick. Those are the 6 teams then. And so then I'm leaving off Dallas at that point. I'm leaving Sacramento.
Yeah, I was going to say, hater.
Yeah, I'd probably go Sacramento or LA. I think we'll fall out of that top 6. I'm going to predict that the Timberwolves go in the top 6. I don't feel the least bit remorseful for saying that Dallas or the Clippers won't, to be honest, or Memphis won't, quite frankly. So it's brutal, but I think Minnesota is legit.